Well, this is a review of my pedal board. You got the top view of it now, and just thought I'd go through it. It's become a bit of a hobby of mine, making pedal boards, and this is the latest version of it. So I just thought I'd show it off. So, starting at the side here, you can see that blue lead is heading into some inputs there. There are 3 inputs with that green handled switch to switch between them. You can't see one of the inputs because it's around that corner there, just in behind, if you can see it, just behind here is another input. So guitar input is 1, 2, 3, so there you go. That's how you switch between 3 different inputs. I normally only play with 2 guitars in case I break a string, but sometimes I use lap steel, so that's why I have the 3. Now, going through the pedal board, or go through the signal chain, from the guitar input, it goes into my Spin Doctor 1. That's a T-Rex Spin Doctor 1. Then into the full tone, full drive 2 MOSFET. So the T-Rex Spin Doctor 1 is my preamp. This is the full drive 2 is my transistor overdrive. It then goes into the Blackstar HT Dual, which is my tube overdrive. Then into the Line 6 M9. Now that piece of metal there is just something I put on it because when I'm playing on stage or wherever, I put my foot on these controls and do things that I want to do. So that just stops me putting my feet all over this control here, which switches between effects modules, so I don't want to do that. Put that back. Right, so the signal path goes from the M9 into the Dunlop volume pedal. So you can see that's where's the name? Dunlop volume pedal. Good unit. And then from there it goes out the back of the Dunlop pedal to the amp. I'll have a look at the back of this pedal board later. So signal path, guitar input, there, preamp, transistor overdrive, valve overdrive, multi-effects, out from the volume pedal. The other things, got a TC Electronic Polytune Mini. I have a TC Halcon Mic Mechanic, which is which you plug a microphone into and it goes out to the PA system, allows you to add some effects to a wet-dry mix, and most importantly for me, so there's the effects, wet-dry mix, and pitch correction. I'm not a singer, I just do backing vocals, so that helps it sound half decent, along with some getting some effects into it. So that's not in the guitar signal part, it's just the mic in and out the PA. And the other thing is I run all this into a Fender Reverb Deluxe 65 reissue, blackface reissue, or DRRI as some people call it. And that's my switching for the amp effects, which is, my hands all over the place because I'm looking through my phone, so I get a bit uncoordinated. That's for reverb, and that's for tremolo. So the other thing on this pedal board is a switch array here with some names that mean something to me, but what that does is both the T-Rex Spin Doctor 1 and the Line 6 M9 are MIDI controllable, and these switches are doing MIDI controls. The Spin Doctor 2 is not MIDI controllable. Spin Doctor 1 is. Don't know why. I've tried to find out why they changed the second version, but only the original first version does that. The other thing is this. You can read a lot on this on the internet, but it has uniquely, I think, motorised potentiometers controls here, which you'll see in a second. So that's what those switches do. So if I just turn the whole thing on, so we'll light it up. If I use the right switch, hang on a sec. There we go. There we go, everything's lighting up. So as I said, lots of nice shiny LEDs everywhere. There's a polytune, reverb, tremolo. Now the tricky bit, I'll just take that down there so you can see it change, is these switches, ignoring the first one which bypasses the M9, so no matter what effects you got switch on, it does a soft bypass. I've got this set to a true bypass with an inbuilt relay inside. It's one of the settings you can have, but this one's does a soft bypass. There you go. So that's what that does. So I can turn the M9 off and on any time I like. The rest of them will change both the spin doctor and the M9. I'll try and do that to get this angle right. So you see how that changes, and the LEDs are indicating they're cycling through the LEDs. So let's just show you the LEDs they're cycling. There you go, each one's turning on and off. That one's not very bright, but it's there, you can see it in the dark. Nice colours. Now you can see what happens when I'm cycling through these on the spin doctor too. You can see the middle pot doesn't move because you have to pick the individual EQs. So it's got bass, mid, treble and presence, so each of those EQs are set. So that's the way it works. I can also, one thing that I didn't think about, but it just works out this way with the setup for Midi, is if you press this one, so if I press Venus for example, now if I press it once, the M9's, I'll go back to, so that's the Venus, M9's going back to those effects. But if I press it again, it actually bypasses the spin doctor. So I can just use the effects with any of the other overdrives. So mostly I use the transistor overdrive with some of these effects, and this one is used without any preamp. I use that with just humbuckers, my Les Paul, whereas the Fender drives just about everything else, my Strat. Anyway, so very good. I can also control the spin doctor individually as well, or do what I like, and the same with the M9, I can run that independently. So one of the things about this setup is that what makes it easy is if you want to change anything anytime, and I've changed, you can see some of these tapes are slightly different colours and different writing because I've changed them numbers of times. All you need to do is select, I guess what you call a patch, like I just did then, tonk, and if you want to, you just make whatever adjustment to either of these units, and then then in the M9 you press the oh hello, it's my dog Jess, she's just been down the river for a swim. Hello Jess. Yeah. And the other dog Bub. Alright, off you go, go on. Now you too, go on. Thank you, bye. Good girls. Yeah, where was I? Yeah, you just change the setting on the T-Rex, like that, for example, or we'll pick Venus again, sorry. You change the setting, you see how the store lights up, and all you need to do is press store, and with the M9 you change that any way you like, and all you need to do is then press another patch, and the M9 will automatically save the settings you had. If you push the same patch again, it won't save it. So there's a few. So you can program it on the fly anytime you like, and both units can be programmed the same patch together, if that made any sense. So lots of flexibility, lots of real-time multitasking when the switches, if that's the way that you call it, multitasking. And lots of programmability, and also standalone. So if these things lose their minds and don't want to work anymore, or something in this complicated process of switching them all goes wrong, I can just go back to manual if I want to. Alright, now having a look at the rest of this pedal board, you'll see that on the side here I have my inputs, as I said before. Now just put this phone down for a sec. Turning the whole thing around. Okay, back in business. Now, this is the back of the pedal board. As you can see, power in. This is Australia, so it's 240 volt, 60 megahertz, 10 amp standard supply. That's the fuse holder. I think that's 1 amp. I tried half an amp, but the board drew too much power, kept burning out, so that's a full amp. Off-on switch. Turn it off for a second. Now over here we have this jack here, which connects the back of the M9, and that allows you to connect an expression pedal if you want to do that. I don't bother, but it's there. I might use it for something else. This one is an external 9 volt power supply. I sometimes use a unit, Electro Harmonix B9, which provides organ sounds, which I don't use all the time. That sits on a separate board externally, but it uses this power supply here. There's the other end of it. And this is for the amp switching. So this is a TRS 6.35mm jack, or what's that in 1/4 inch jack, is it? I think it is in the Imperial. And here I have the 5-pin DIN sockets for the Midi CPUs that I have inside this unit. So they are used mostly, there's an in and an out, there's 2 Midi CPU boards in there, which I'll have a look at in a sec, but one port is to input to the Midi board to send sysx commands and related program patches and control change commands and other things, and to instruct it on what the LED controls are. So I won't go into that because it's complicated. Don't want to take the time to do it now. And there's an output from those jacks so you can monitor what's coming out of them in terms of switching. And so I always forget which is which, and these lights aren't intuitive, but there's an activity light for each board. So when I turn the power on, you'll see the MIDI activity. Yeah, the boards have booted up, MIDI boards, and if I press this, whoops, not the right. So MIDI activity, that just tells me that the switch array on the front of the board is activating some doings on the MIDI CPU. Now, just have to put this phone down again for a sec. Right, now you can see the back of my board, hopefully. I'm getting on an odd angle here, but you can see that it's an odd shape. See down there, it's an odd shape, but and this just is just a panel that opens, which I'm opening now. This is all a bit Blair Witch at the moment, but there you go. So that's open to the insides, the inner workings. What have we got? Okay, this shielded, copper shielded area is the guitar inputs, shielded for obvious reasons, and that's grounded to the earth that comes through from the amp channel switching. That was the best ground. The lowest noise ground I found was from that earth. Having built a few pedal boards, earth ground loops are, they can drive you crazy, but I found that's the best one. Now, guitars come in, guitar signal comes in. You saw that rotary switch before, switches between 3 inputs. The output comes from this. It's a bit of a mess here, but I know how all this works. This takes the guitar signal to the first unit in the chain, which is the T-Rex spin doctor, and goes through the rest of the chain as I said before. Here we have, this is an awkward angle, hang on.